We are the anchors of Queer News Tonight, and this evening we discuss the queer headlines. Wilton Manors leaders warn Florida Senate's Bill 1134 may curb DEI roles, threatening Stonewall Pride visibility, city services, and Tri-County LGBTQ and LGBTQ-sponsored gatherings.
Former staffer links Grindr's decline to going public. Meanwhile, users criticize rising costs, usability issues, and the pricey AI-powered Edge subscription tier.
2 federal lawsuits challenge pride flag removal at Stonewall. Advocates argue symbolism and lawmakers push permanence, while protests intensify nationwide debate.
25 activists were arrested after blocking the HHS headquarters, protesting proposed federal rules that restrict gender-affirming care for access transgender minors nationwide.
European Parliament passes a symbolic resolution affirming that trans women are women, urging inclusion in gender equality policies ahead of the next UN meeting.
All this important LGBTQ+ news and more this evening on Queer News Tonight. Welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ daily news television show broadcasting live and available on demand on your favorite streaming channels.
Analytics company vidIQ has certified the Queer News Tonight YouTube channel as the world's most popular LGBTQ streaming news show. Our queer stories have reached over 11 million views. We are proud that Queer News Tonight has more YouTube subscribers than any other LGBTQ brand in Florida.
We thank you for watching and supporting our voice in our rainbow community. There is no other news program in the LGBTQ world like Queer News Tonight.
It is Thursday, February 19th. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we will tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
You're watching Queer News Tonight, the world's first daily LGBTQ evening news show.
Welcome to the world's most important LGBTQ evening news show. Hotspots Magazine Happening Out Television Network is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same model as PBS and NPR, but created for the LGBTQ community. Our nonprofit mission is to support the 11 pillars of our community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of lesbian, trans, Latino, Black, healthcare, seniors, students, faith, social justice, business, and queer culture. Help us support our diverse community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ nonprofit media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network. Hotspots Happening Out is a proud beneficiary of the 2026 Florida AIDS Walk, standing by our healthcare pillar. Funds raised here are matched dollar for dollar in support of our HIV policy reform and educational programs, including our MSM conference. We invite you to donate and join us on the March 21st walk in to support of the Hotspots Happening Out teams.
In 2026, our magazine is celebrating 41 years of the LGBTQ experience, and Queer News Tonight is celebrating our 5th anniversary with more than 11,000 LGBTQ television stories. We present South Florida's major LGBTQ events, including Pride Fort Lauderdale, Stonewall Pride, and Pride Fest. Our magazine, events, television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ and broader community.
In 2026, more than 100 community leaders will sit at this very table and share their voice as our anchors. Today, we host this show to support the LGBTQ community. Let's meet this evening's anchors at Queer News Tonight. Let's welcome anchor Larry Farver. Larry has over 20 years of experience in human resources, acting, film, radio, TV, live events, parade float design, production, and casting. He is also a board member of the West Side Association. Larry, live at Mickle Park with East Amber Drive, will be on February 20th. Tell me, what's happening out?
Absolutely, Rex. We'll get ready for a lively evening of music at Live at Mickle on Friday, February 20th from 7:30 to 9:30 at Mickle Park, Wilton Manors. Enjoy a high-energy performance by East Amber Drive, delivering an electrifying mix of pop and rock hits, blending modern favorites with classic crowd pleasers. The concert is completely free to attend, making it the perfect night out for friends, family, and music lovers. Bring a lawn chair or blanket, relax under the evening sky, and soak in the vibrant community atmosphere. For additional event details, visit wiltonmanors.gov. Well, I look forward to the concert tomorrow evening. As a volunteer on the Wilton Manors West Side Association board, we have a great concession stand. We serve wine and beer, and we have pizza from Dolce Salato on the drive, as well as some other snacks and desserts. So it's a lot of fun. We found, that these tribute bands really bring the crowd energy in. The weather's supposed to be a lot warmer than it was for the last concert, so we're looking forward to it. And there is an opportunity to dance up front. So it's a great crowd, all inclusive. Encourage folks to come out. If you need additional parking, historically they've had parking at St. Clement's Church on Andrews Avenue, right off of Oakland Park Boulevard with the shuttle. So please come on out. If you have nothing to do, it's a great free evening. You can bring your own food and beverage, but certainly we have it available if you'd like to join us.
I mean, definitely it is free. So what do you have to lose? And it's good music. I saw that there was a Coldplay tribute band as well.
That's coming up next month. There you go.
So I mean, if this doesn't tickle your fancy, definitely keep looking at the events. But why not go out to a free event? What else?
And there's so many great events going on at Mickle Park lately. It's been really wonderful to see all that happening in Wilton Manors.
And one more plug for Wilton Manors. Certainly go to the concert tomorrow night, but on Saturday, right behind Town Hall, we have our Wilton Manors yard sale. A lot of great vendors. Check it out. Starts at 8 o'clock till 2.
Everyone loves a bargain.
Yes.
Well, Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you live at Mickle with East Amber Drive on February 20th. Now let's welcome anchor Alex Morash. Alex has served as editor-in-chief of Options Magazine, media director of the National LGBTQ Task Force, and press secretary for the Florida Democratic Party. Welcome to the show, Alex.
Thank you very much for having me, Rex. And I want to take 2 seconds just to congratulate my partner, Gilbert Ponce. He was named to the Wilton Manors Financial Advisory Board by the Wilton Manors Commission last week. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yes.
My condolences, because that means you deal with all the money and budgets, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't do that stuff. But he's actually a former town selectman, an elected official up in Massachusetts. So to him, he loves doing stuff like this. I'm like, if you love reading about a budget, fine, baby, go do it. God bless you.
That's great. Congratulations.
Well, tell him when he's finished, he can come budget my balance my budget for me.
And of course, let's welcome tonight's lead anchor, Rex Rogosh. Rex is a visionary designer with over 30 years of experience in product design, interior design, and architecture. He performs in the drag community, is International Lords, and is the current reigning Mr. Scandals 2026. Rex is the president and co-founder of Lantera, a 501c3 organization dedicated to advancing mental health awareness through inclusive community-driven events. Rex, Lantera Florida brings the Come As You Are prom to Wilton Manors on May 2nd. Tell me what's happening out.
All right, everybody, lean in really closely because this is a secret. It's very, very secret. But yes, Lantera is bringing back the 3rd annual Come As You Are prom on May 2nd. And this year's theme is Wilton Manors 1926, the Speakeasy. We transformed this night into a glamorous adults-only 1920s experience. The evening runs from 7 to 11 p.m., featuring a VIP hour from 7 to 8 p.m., with an open bar and live crooner Stephen Ross Dybash singing, followed by the main prom from 8 to 11, with DJ-driven dance and prom court voting. Proceeds benefit Lantera's Mental Health Fund. For more details, visit lanterafl.org/events. So as you notice, we didn't say where this is because it's a speakeasy and we don't want to be shut down. But when you go and purchase your ticket, the event location will be revealed to you. And we, just asking people to keep it quiet because we don't want the coppers to shut us down.
No.
But this is our 3rd annual, and we just did launch our mental health fund this year. So this is our main event to help fund that. And what that is we are actually now paying for people's mental health services. So if you are with a provider and you tell them I no longer can afford that, we are starting to give grants to make sure that you are still taken care of. So I'm really excited. And it is the Speakeasy. So 1920s glamour and a little bit of debauchery at night.
Ooh, sounds so intriguing.
This sounds like such a fun idea for your prom. I know last year you had a great prom with 80s with the theme.
It was flashback for 80s, yes.
And to do direct grants to actually help people get service, that's wonderful. And we a lot of nonprofits do a lot of talk. They don't do a lot of direct assistance, and this is one of those things that it's actually directly helping people.
And it's so much needed right now.
Absolutely. And this is something that, we are, very proud of, that about 80% of the funds that we raise do actually go out. We do not keep a lot of those funds. We try to keep our operating expenses pretty low. And we have appointed and are starting to appoint our prom court. And so we will be slowly leaking out the people who are appointed. We'll have 4 appointees, both king and queen, and then we will vote for them live on prom night to see who wins. So again, make sure that you follow us on social media, Lantera FL, and keep in touch with us on Instagram, Facebook, and our website.
That's amazing, Rex.
Thank you.
Well, Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you at the Come As You Are prom on May 2nd. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by sharing them and subscribing to Queer News Tonight.
Rex Rogosh, and let's queer up South Florida and Florida. Wilton Manors officials warn state DEI bill could restrict city support for Stonewall Pride. Wilton Manors leaders are raising concerns over proposed Florida bill that could limit municipal involvement in diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. The measure, SB 1134, would prohibit municipalities from funding or promoting DEI-related policies and offices with an effective date of January 1st, 2027. Wilton Manors Vice Mayor Chris Caputo said the legislation may impact how cities engage with community events. His Facebook post says, quote, "This one matters. You really do have to do something. HB 1001/SB 1134 could put Stonewall Pride, Wicked Manners, and other community events and programs at risk by restricting how cities can fund or support events tied to diversity and inclusion. The impact on our city is huge. Call, email, share, let your voice be heard," end quote. Organizers for the event fear the city could be forced to remove its name from Wilton Manors Stonewall Pride, which is in its 26th year. This means the city could not provide any free services and not list Stonewall Pride as an event in any city publication. Caputo added the bill could also stop any city support for anything that benefits Stonewall, such as Wilton Manors Art Walk, Taste of the Island, etc. Event organizers claim that these events have been the perfect and safe opportunity for the Tri-County community to gather and connect with each other. The proposal allows residents to bring legal action against local governments if found in violation. Hotspots Happening Out produces Stonewall Pride events referenced. Senator Jason Pizzo has not publicly commented on the development. Now, yet again, I mean, historically, not Wilton Manors in general, but historically, most organizations, pride organizations or whatnot, are put on by a private organization or a private nonprofit. And while the city does say, "Hey, here's the park," we still have to pay for permits. We still have to pay for security and those types of things. I know historically that our city has said, "Here's the police department. Here's the money to pay for the police department." So unfortunately, that stuff will go away. This doesn't mean that we still can't have pride. It doesn't mean that we can't have these events. It's just going to make them a little more difficult, and a little more fundraising is going to have to happen to make sure that these events will get scaled back.
I think the city gave 40 or 50,000 last year. So
Right.
It's not a nothing amount of money.
Correct.
I think this is a good, for Commissioner Caputo, I like him using his Facebook in this sort of way. I think this is a positive
Absolutely.
to give you. I don't know how useful it is to reach out to Jason Pizzo, the state senator. For those that remember, he's the one that used to be a Democrat and then left, and then the party chair said good riddance to the media about him. So I don't know him very well. He doesn't seem like the best ally, but reach out to him, try and get him to do something. But on the concept of what should Pride be?
Right.
I do think this also kind of gets to that a little bit because I've written for years about Pride, we spend all this money, we do these big things. Maybe it really makes more sense as a protest. People are oh, well, there'll be police costs. I'm you don't get to charge the protesters for that. You can try, but it doesn't normally work that way. And honestly, a more combative style like that can work. Also, when I was at Options Magazine, I would cover different protests and events, and not everyone would pay for police. The DSA and the library union went to protect a drag story time at a library. The police were protecting the Nazis, screaming that we were pedophiles at them. They didn't protect us. Who protected us was a militia called the John Brown Gun Club. And there's other progressive groups that'll do defensive actions. There's the anarchists have their black bloc. You know, there's a lot of different ways to look at security, but in a more activist way.
Well, and I think there are a lot of perspectives to look at. I mean, first of all, this could have bigger ramifications impacting other cities, our neighbors in Fort Lauderdale, who throw, you know, the Black Heritage Month parade. You look at our sister city in Oakland Park that has events as well. But I think one of the things about Wilton Manors is we are a LGBT destination. I've gotten feedback from some of the business folks that I interact with as part of the West Side Association in the greater city. And I think the big concern is that if we allow this type of thing to continue, it's going to take away all the pizzazz that brings people into Wilton Manors. You know, I have in my day done the grassroots protests or parades, but I think people have come to expect this type of event in Wilton Manors. And I know there might be different thoughts on this, but last year, a gunman was prevented from going into the crowd. We're not sure what his actions or intentions were. One could guess. But I think it's really important that we look at what's happening here in Florida and the states that are red and really open our eyes and react.
You mentioned the black community, like the Florida, Florida's been doing some weird shit, and that's the word I'm going to use to describe it. Like, you remember the sidewalks, the crosswalks? They didn't just go after Christopher. They took away the Daytona 500 checkers. Yes, like, you think this is going to end at Pride? Like, I don't even know if St. Patrick's Day parades will be allowed under a bill like this. It's absolutely insanity. Like, it is.
And I think you touched on something. I mean, we are Wilton Manors is a unique situation where the city is probably more involved in our LGBT pride parades and other events because of the city that we're in. But let's look at this because this is a bill that's going to affect the entire state. So let's look at this as holistically, you know, how involved are other cities with these types of events in the first place? They're not necessarily giving money. In fact, we've already seen historically that there's other cities charging prides more money for security than they would charge other organizations. They're charging more for the location than they do for other organizations. So while, yes, this affects our pride in a certain way, I think we have to look at this a little more holistically. And I'm wondering, while the whole thing about DEI is horrific and it's on multiple levels, but I'm wondering, from kind of like the devil's advocate, how much that's really going to inhibit organizations more than the cities that they're already inhibiting themselves. Because again, pride is not held by cities, it's held by private organizations. So we already have cities pushing back on those prides before stuff like this is even happening. So the fact that they're saying you can't fund it, well, where are they funding it in the first place, except for places like Wilton Manors?
Yeah.
So, you know, that's kind of where it's a little bit of a different. We're in a different bubble.
Absolutely, but it's okay for our leader in chief to have an airport named after him a few miles up the road.
I mean, presidents get stuff named after them all the time. So
while they're alive.
Yeah, I was thinking,
hopefully not.
Like, I actually have Michael Dukakis is a former presidential candidate. He was a professor of mine. They named something after him. He was very offended. He's like, "I'm not dead yet." So yeah, I hear you on that one. But on this, like, so yes, I'll very much brief. Like, obviously, this is a bad bill.
100%.
If it passes, I do think the queer community does need to start having conversations of like, what are we actually willing to pay for? Because like, maybe we should be paying for police. Maybe they're ripping us off. I don't necessarily know, but like, we're gonna have to start having that conversation. Right. And there are more activist ways to deal with this too.
And I agree with you. I think this again opens the floodgates because they're saying anything DEI. So a women's rights march, Black History, St. Patrick's Day, anything could be threading that needle. So this is something we definitely should be watching and we should be voting against and raising our voices against, because it doesn't just impact us, it impacts our whole community.
I'm Larry Farver, and let's queer up gay culture. Former Grindr employee blames IPO for app's decline. A former Grindr employee is speaking out, saying one corporate shift marked the start of what some users call the app's decline. According to Vox, complaints have grown in recent years, with users describing the platform as more expensive and less usable. The criticisms are renewed as Grindr trials a new premium tier called Edge, an artificial intelligence-powered subscription priced between $349.99 and $499.99 per month. The tier is being tested in the US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, and will sit above, not replace, Grindr Unlimited. A former marketing staffer who left the company in 2023 said the downturn began in 2022 when Grindr went public, and this shift left to the app's focus to move its users to its investors. The staffer said, quote, Grindr really changed the game in a lot of ways. It was a different type of cruising. It was at the time so cool and inventive, but now it's taken on the Silicon Valley shape, end quote. Grindr's chief product officer, AJ Balance, pushed back saying, quote, some of the principles we have in building our products is giving users choice and control over what products they want to use. So if users don't want to engage with these products, they don't have to go there, end quote. Do you think Grindr is evolving or losing its spark? Well, personally, I don't care. Certainly have a respect for people out there, but there's an open market of selections, and you don't have to spend almost $500 to get an experience.
I mean, look, they're not requiring it, for one. So stop bitching.
Yes.
2, Grindr isn't the reason why Grindr is declining. Like, I haven't been on Grindr for several years. However, when I was on it, it wasn't the platform that was the problem. It was the people using the platform that was the problem. So, you get what you give, right? You've got people on there who, use it for whatever reasons that they want to use it for. And if you don't like it, then go to another platform or go to a bar and talk to somebody, go to a bathhouse and bump up against something. You have options out there.
Well, right.
Exactly.
Thank you, gentlemen. But I just have to be very blunt. Even if 300 to 400 a month, I don't care. Even if the app gave me a blowjob and did the dishes afterwards, that's still too friggin' high of a cost for a monthly subscription of any kind. That's absolutely absurd. 300 to 400 a month. That is, but okay. Yes, they had that very nice corporate message of, oh, you don't have to use it. We all know the way how AI works. If it makes it so that it ends up doing most of the conversation tracking for you, that means that people that don't use it aren't going to be able to talk to anyone eventually. That's what they're going to try and do with this sort of crap. And this is just a reminder that, one, AI is way over unregulated. And the fact that we have no one trying to regulate what you can charge a person in a subscription is also absurd. But to me, I think the biggest part of this is all another example of enshittification. A company, a techie company of some kind, has a nice little product. They get a bunch of people on it, and the moment they try to make it go public or really try to, they just destroy their own product. And now, this just looks like the beginning of the end for Grindr to me. But that also means that, I think that Scruff and the other nice ones are still out there. So use those kids.
I mean, that's what I was saying. You've got options, and I hear what you're saying about the cost, but I mean, we look at, luxury brands that are selling, basically torn up, ripped up t-shirts for $700. Mm-hmm. And we wonder why, major retail brands are going under. So, you either people are going to pay it or they're not, and they'll learn. We call art because someone called it art, not because it was necessarily technically something. Same with pricing. We price things because people will pay for it. And if they pay for it, well, then that's the cost. I think the problem is we have somebody who's left the company who's saying, the IPO ruined the company. Well, no, the times are changing in general. With the makeup of people on these apps is changing in general. We keep talking about, and we've talked about it in the past, the younger generation isn't using gay bars and apps and stuff like that because they can just go to 7-Eleven and pick up somebody in aisle 12, right? So, let's not blame the app, and let's not blame AI.
You can get a ChatGPT subscription for much less than $300 or $400 a month.
Sure.
There's an unusual tiering here that doesn't make any sense.
It makes sense because nobody's paying for premium.
Oh, well, that's a whole other story.
Like I said, why pay for Grindr when it gives you just enough people, and the first 10 people that you get anyway are going to ghost you within 10 minutes because it's the perpetual, what's going to be the better next 10.
You can tell I haven't been on Grindr in forever because you used to get like 100 people.
Right. It's just in general, dynamics are changing. So it is what it is. Well, good luck, Grindr, and on your newest tier.
I'm Alex Morash, and let's queer up the USA view. Stonewall Pride flag dispute reaches federal courts. 2 federal lawsuits are turning a single flagpole at the Stonewall National Monument into a national flashpoint over how America tells its story. Earlier this month, the National Park Service removed the pride flag that had flown at the Stonewall since 2022, igniting protests and swift legal action. Now, Lambda Legal and a coalition of advocacy groups are asking a Manhattan federal judge to order the flag's return. Stonewall, established in 2016, commemorates the 1969 uprising, widely seen as a catalyst for the modern LGBTQ rights movement. Plaintiffs argue the pride flag is not decorative, but interpretive, a symbol inseparable from the monument's meaning. The New York case, brought by the Gilbert Baker Foundation, Village Preservation, Equality New York, and others, claims the Park Service acted unlawfully and arbitrarily. The complaint says the agency misread its own policies and failed to follow procedures required under the National Historic Preservation Act and the Administrative Procedure Act. A second lawsuit filed in Massachusetts broadens the fight. A coalition including the National Parks Coalition Conservation Association and the Union of Concerned Scientists challenges what it describes as a wider campaign to alter or remove exhibits addressing civil rights, climate change, slavery, and indigenous history following a 2025 executive order. Meanwhile, New York lawmakers are planning legislation to make the rainbow flag permanent at Stonewall. Well, I just gotta say, seeing all the legalese about how they want to defend this flag. Normally I'd say lawyers don't do anything, but that actually sounded very clever to me. You're like, oh, well, using some laws and something useful. That being said, the other more serious part of the story is like, of course, the pride should be flown there. Duh. At the same time, like, getting that flag back there isn't going to save a single trans person kidnapped and never seen again in an ICE detention facility, and isn't going to save a single queer person like Renee Good, who was murdered by a federal official. So to me, it's like, yes, of course this is bad. At the same time, like, is this what these queer rights groups and advocacy groups should be spending their time and money on? And I just don't know anymore.
I think it's a balance, because we've talked about this before. We see a kind of neutralization of our history in general. I mean, eventually we're just going to be saying, hey, we had a person come over to the land and say, hey, can I move in next door? Like, it's going to become this like howdy doody, of how we, colonized, and, like I've said it before, Texas history books have already been like pillaged, and they went from 2 inches thick to a pamphlet. And, so this is just another thing. We just saw in Philadelphia the removal of slavery and stuff that talks about our history. And what I don't get is that this is history, right? Now, I will say, I have a friend who lives in Germany, and it is very forbidden for them to talk about Hitler, Nazism, any of that within that area. And you don't see anything when you go through Berlin. Like, the Berlin Wall's gone, except for a couple of pieces. And, they're very respectful about talking about what was there, not what was done to it, which I found kind of odd, because I'm very much a person of, this happened, somebody killed somebody pillaged something, somebody took over something. We should talk about that and say, this is what happened, this is the outcome of it. And so taking down the flag is just, for me, I do agree with you. Yes, we have a lot of other, but this is just one more checkbox of that.
The Nazi comparison, I think, is a good one, because one, like, they changed a lot of stuff at once, but also, like, how did Germany get to the point where it is today, which does not have the sort of Nazi movement that it once had?
Correct.
America and the other allied countries, when they defeated Germany, there was a whole long program of showing the German people their own crimes. And it was not a very polite. It was, you were seen to show, they showed Auschwitz, they showed the giant pits of mass graves and said, you did this.
Right.
And my big fear is there is no nation powerful enough on earth to force America to deal with that as we start going down this road. That's what really terrifies me.
Well, yeah. And having come out, in New York City area and going to the Village as, it's a monument. It's part of the history.
It's a beautiful place. Like, it's a beautiful park.
Right and like you said, Rex, make things more neutral by taking away monuments to acknowledge slavery existed. It's not that we're celebrating it. We're acknowledging the history.
And I think there's a fine line because, they've had this situation where they were taking down statues to Confederate soldiers and renaming things from Confederate soldiers. And people are like, well, that's our history. Why are you getting rid of it? But these are the same people who are taking away
remember,
the flag.
All those Confederate, those monuments were made in like the 1950s by some white supremacists as like a PR stunt. Not the same thing as one commemorating like an actual place like Stonewall where a specific event happened, or like being related to the time. Like, the people that lost the Civil War didn't like talking about it at first for the first 10 or 20 years. They were losers. They didn't want to be reminded that they were losers.
Right. Yeah. But you should, you should still go, when you go through like Gettysburg and all that, you need to see that, this is where Civil War happened. Mm-hmm. This is who won. This is who lost. We might like it or not. I'm not saying, put up a Confederate, Confederate soldier won here, so let's put up a monument to them. Let's fly the Confederate flag to show that this was their chess piece. But we need to show that this is what happened here, and it's about education. I do find that sometimes monuments, when they are put up, they are a little one-sided at times, and they don't depict both sides. And we also don't, unfortunately, most people don't look at things in context of time. So, for instance, I was just watching some documentaries on the whole America's Next Top Model, and
very related.
Well, the reason why I would bring that up is because some things happened in a time period that was acceptable at that time.
Yeah.
So, I think, again, the flag represents a moment in time, and we've seen the flag change, but they're flying not even the original flag, but they're flying the regular, what I would consider the historical pride flag, not the current equality pride flag. So again, we're looking at the stuff in context, and taking down the flag just makes that now, and they've even removed the plaque, so now it's just a park.
Yeah, but remember, I understand all the context with the different flags and the subtext. Trump's administration isn't doing it for they just want to erase, wipe, and also get the distraction of it.
Correct. Well, like I said, they're wanting to erase history in general.
And they want us focused on that and not what they're doing. That's my big fear of this sort of conversation. It's like, yes, this is horrific. It's also designed to be more distraction than not.
Which is kind of what we keep saying every time we report on something. Yes, this is bad, guys. However, remember there's something even worse happening.
It's going to be interesting seeing how, the 250th birthday is celebrated this year, and how the different parties, especially our current administration, celebrates it, and what they choose to promote as part of history, and what they whitewash or erase in that celebration.
I thought we were just going to celebrate Trump for this. That's where it seems to be going.
I mean, that's if it even happens. I mean, honestly, it's going to get to a point where, unfortunately, he blusters and says, this is what I want. And then when it comes down to it, either the money isn't there or the infrastructure isn't there. You can't have tanks going down the streets of Washington, D.C. If anybody's ever driven through Washington, D.C., it barely holds a Mazda, let alone a tank. So it's just, unfortunately, we need to, speak up and watch these. I'm Rex Rogosh, and let's queer up trans rights. 25 arrested as activist protests proposed federal limits on gender-affirming care for trans youth. More than 50 activists gathered Tuesday in Washington, D.C., protesting proposed federal rules that would restrict access to gender-affirming care for transgender minors. The demonstration was organized by the Gender Liberation Movement, with participation from ACT UP New York and ACT UP Pittsburgh. Protesters assembled outside the Hubert H. Humphrey Building, headquarters of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Activists blocked the building's entrance, held signs reading, quote, "Hands off our moans," end quote, and chanted in support of trans youth. Authorities say 25 people were arrested for blocking access to the building. Those individuals are now in the custody of D.C.'s Metropolitan Police Department. The protest coincided with the final day for public comment on the proposed rules. On the same day, 106 members of Congress sent a letter opposing the measures. The rules proposed in December 2025 by HH Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. would bar hospitals providing gender-affirming care to minors from participating in Medicare and Medicaid. They would also prohibit federal Medicaid and children's health insurance programs funds for covering such care and exclude gender dysmorphia from protections under Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. I mean, look, protesting is not illegal. Let them do it. Granted, there are rules, so they got arrested. But, again, we keep looking at, all of these rules and regulations and laws and committee members saying, you shouldn't do this. And now if you're a hospital or a doctor giving affirming care, then the way this is reading, the hospital can't be in Medicare or Medicaid, which means you're not just punishing the 1%, you're now punishing an entire community in an area. So you're not doing harm to just one person. Now you're harming the full community. And I think other people need to start realizing that, I think a lot of people sit and go, oh, well, I don't know somebody who's trans, which they probably do, or that doesn't affect me. Well, but it does, because these rules open up floodgates, or they're written in such a vague way that it does affect you if they want it to.
Also, if they, besides the fact that this is horrendous and directly harming people, if they can decide one group of people can't get access to healthcare, what's to make them decide that they don't want to give healthcare to the Irish or to people in just the state of Connecticut? It gets down a very random, weirdo, wacko place, which is exactly what you would expect a guy like Robert Kennedy Jr. to do, because he's been running HHS like a crazy house. It's absolutely been insane to watch what's been going on at HHS lately. Like, the first Trump term was very scary. They were trying to make it so that a doctor could deny your care, not just based on their religion, but their personal morality. I'm like, well, what the heck did that mean? What if my morality means I just don't like girls with like a certain hairstyle or something?
Right.
But this is a whole other level. Now, on the arrest, for my work, I do workers' rights advocacy. We do protests. People get arrested at protests all the time. Exactly. That's a normal part. Unfortunately, but it's a good protest is bothering the people in power. Like, if you just go say, we disagree with you, they don't care. If you make it harder to get in and out of their building, you ruin their day. That is that helps to annoy them. And unfortunately, that's what you have to do with this administration, is annoy them, make their day hard, and really gunk up the work sort of.
Well, it'll be interesting too. You talked about broader language, and you look at other groups who rely on hormone replacement, and they're not trans, but males, females, intersex individuals at different levels of care. How hypocritical is it to provide them with it's really gender affirming care? I saw something online briefly before coming in, and they were talking about Musk, and of course he paid for it out of his own pocket, but he had his jawline refined. He took more testosterone to achieve a look that he didn't have. Mm-hmm. He took minoxidil, for his hairline. And, where does it...
But don't just think about just hormone, but if they can do this on one type of treatment without going through proper, we're used to things like the FDA having this crazy thing called licensed medical professionals make these calls. If they can just arbitrarily make this call, what's to stop Robert Kennedy Jr. from starting to question the validity of chemotherapy for cancer patients? They literally went back and forth with a Moderna flu vaccine in the last couple of weeks because he just personally doesn't like it. This is America's healthcare system is in huge danger right now with this. I don't mean to sound hysterical, but there's no other way to talk about healthcare in America.
No.
Right
It's a mess.
No, I mean, you're quite right. And, Larry, you think about when any woman who has hit menopause is on hormone therapy, or should be on hormone therapy. So that is gender affirming care, because if your hormones are out of whack, it could cause, problems. Same with older gentlemen. When their testosterone levels start to diminish, they get put on testosterone. That is gender affirming care, so that your estrogen, and you go on estrogen blockers. There's so many medical reasons for gender affirming care. It's not just for transitioning.
No, I mean, look, could you imagine if those those types of care were not available to individuals, our first lady, some of those folks, and they would be walking around with beards and mustaches, all kinds of things going on.
Well, and
I don't want to picture Madam Trump with a beard. That's horrific, Larry.
with her
Thank
little
you.
with her little hamburger hat.
the sad thing is we've talked about that before, and we've talked about what happens if they do something and then all of a sudden their care, and we've reported on that, and there was a woman sitting on a bed, and she had to have some form of abortion, and she was like, call the governor, and they were like, nope, we can't do that.
Well, the criminalization of women's health care has been even worse. Like, women who have had miscarriages are being potentially prosecuted for murder. Doctors don't want to treat women because of it, which I get very upset with the doctors about. I'm like, no, you still do your duty to save a person's life, but like, this is where this is all going with this particular Health and Human Services, and also like for trans people, like the idea of trying to force someone to stop taking hormones, that's also just horrific to do to a person.
Exactly.
Like, how would you like such a jarring change to your life? Like, if I take a mental health medication that was ripped away from me, that would be really awful
and it can have
life.
huge ramifications on your physical body in general. So you're putting
absolutely.
somebody's life at risk, not only mentally but physically as well. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ramifications.
The only other thing I'll say, I'm just glad to see Erin Reed doing more reporting on this. She's a great reporter, and I'm glad that we cover more of her stories.
Absolutely.
I'm Larry Farver, and let's queer up the world view. European Parliament backs trans women recognition, signaling major shift ahead of UN Women's Summit. European Parliament has adopted a resolution declaring that trans women are women, marking a significant symbolic step for LGBTQ plus rights across the European Union. The resolution outlines recommendations for the EU at the upcoming 70th Annual United Nations Commission on the Status of Women, scheduled next month in New York. Among them is a proclamation stressing, quote, the importance of full recognition of trans women as women, noting that their inclusion is essential for the effectiveness of any gender equality and anti-violence policies, end quote. The measure also calls for a, quote, comprehensive tool to monitor and counter democratic backsliding in women's rights, end quote, while acknowledging a rise in attacks against LGBTQ plus and women's rights activists. According to LGBTQ plus Nation, the recommendations were approved in a 340 to 141 vote with 68 abstentions. Although European Parliament resolutions are typically not legally binding, they often carry political weight and influence across member states. Journalist Erin Reed, covering the development, suggested resolution places on the European Union on a direct collision course with the United States ahead of the UN gathering. Well, kudos to the EU. I really wish the US could be part of it. Unfortunately, with the current climate and unfortunately our current administration not supporting the UN, we have a lot to heighten our awareness and really do what we can in our community and supporting what we can do to take us away from this horrible trajectory I think that we're on.
I love the fact that it is for transgender women. I wish the language was for transgender in general, transgender
Yes.
women and men.
Good point.
Because we talk a lot about transgender women, and I feel like the transgender men get kind of excluded in a lot of the conversations because they're affected as much as trans women as well.
Of course, I don't know. It might be because, like, in neighboring England, they have been doing a lot of specifically trans women attacks and changing legislation specifically to target trans women, so it might just trying to be reactive that way. I will say a lot of actors have been pointing out like a lot of human rights abuses with the EU, but like compared to the United States and the United Kingdom, the EU is this like human rights, workers' rights utopia, like craziness by comparison. Like, it's just been absolutely horrifying to watch how both the United Kingdom and the United States have been just destroying their reputations. Their concepts of human rights are just become laughable, not just with trans people, but with a whole host of other issues.
And I know some folks, both male and female, who identify in the trans community, who are men and women, and to hear them say, contemplate having to leave our country to have a better life. I mean, that's just horrible. Yeah. It's tragic.
But like, I would say, like, if you're going, like, not everyone can afford to leave this country. I always make a big deal about that, but like for marginalized groups that are unusually endangered, which is the trans community, like Europe is probably one of the better places. Like some people are like, well, what about Canada? I'm like, well, Canada is the Poland of this particular war game scenario. Everybody, you just get a couple years of safety. You're still gonna have to end up going all the way to Europe if you're lucky, though.
Well, I mean, the EU is, like they said, they're not rules, but they at least are putting out a gesture, and hopefully other people will listen, or hopefully those countries that are part of the EU will then put into legislation in their actual countries, protections and for the trans women and our trans community in general. LGBTQ 1 Minute News. Let's queer up politics. Sarah McBride responds to James Wood's troll post, says viral Save Act quote was fabricated online. Congresswoman Sarah McBride fired back after James Woods attempted to troll her on Twitter. Woods shared an image of McBride at a podium with a fabricated quote about the SAVE Act, captioning it, quote, end quote. The quote said, "The SAVE Act will harm women voters like myself." McBride responded saying, quote, "Something that's been weird about being in elected office is having people you grew up watching in movies troll you online. Actually, just rewatched Contact yesterday. Good movie," end quote, and confirmed the quote was fabricated. Twitter users rallied behind her immediately. One wrote, quote, "Isn't he a villain in that movie," end quote. Another joked, quote, "Just watch the scene in Hercules where he gets dragged into Hades," end quote. I mean, I hate to say this, but at some point, we just have to kind of ignore what's online, right? Because even... I'm glad that she said something, but at the end of the day, yes, people are going to rally behind her, but just as many people are going to rally behind him. And unless he's completely taken off of Twitter or, there's some ramifications for what he said, people are going to say what they're going to say online. And unfortunately, online is not policed. We know this. And you kind of have to pick your battles. And it's sad that she has to deal with this, but she's a political figure too, so...
I mean, like, when I was at the task force doing press, she was at HRC doing press. So I know Sarah a little bit, and I would see her all the time. She's a very sweet person. That being said, she is not the best at the attempting to do the clapback stuff. I remember, when she first came into Congress, the House Republicans were trying to be very transphobic, and she was like, we as Democrats, we're not going to do that. We're going to talk about policy. And I'm like, Sarah, the problem is the Democrats only talk about policy. They don't pass anything. And now with this one with James Woods, first of all, James Woods is just a nasty, vile creature. Right. He's not, I don't even refer to him in human being terms. He's just like this weird little hobbit creature thing in the corner that just is always saying awful stuff. And her clapback was just very odd. Famous people are saying bad things about me. Like, yeah, Sarah, girl, you have so made it. You were so past the point of saying that. Be like, go after him hard. What he's going to say some weird, be like, oh, I'm sorry. Are you having a seizure, James? I know you get into that age where you get a little goofy. That's how you should be dealing with James Wood at this point. He's geriatric. He should be replacing his catheter more often.
Yeah. Don't give him any attention.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I would say.
Let him stay in the corner.
Just let him stay in the corner.
Yeah, I'll deal with him for you. Just there.
There you go.
LGBT 1 Minute News. Let's queer up sports. Madonna sends a surprise message to queer skater Amber Glenn ahead of Olympic short program. Team USA's Amber Glenn received an unforgettable surprise before her Olympic short program. A personal message from Madonna. The pop icon told her, quote, "I have to tell you, I was blown away by it. You're an incredible skater. So strong, so beautiful, so brave," end quote. Glenn reacted emotionally, saying she was in complete shock. She responded to the post with, quote, "My queen, thank you so much," end quote. The moment quickly went viral amongst the LGBTQ plus fans. Glenn later took the ice, but her performance did not go as she had hoped. Well, good for her. And it's good. I love celebrities when they do something that's selfless and boosts someone. And even though she didn't have a great outcome, it made her day, her
Absolutely.
career. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I love that. That means people are watching, and, we all have an off moment, and it was, sad that her routine didn't get her with the marks that she wanted. But, she is an Olympian after all, and win or lose, she made it there.
That's
where
right.
Most of us look like Bambi on ice still.
Well, normally I like to give Madonna a hard time. I'm a Patti LuPone Cher girl, but, this is so sweet.
It is.
And I learned something from Madonna. I learned there are Winter Olympics going on right now. LGBTQ 1 Minute News, let's queer up gay culture. Keke Palmer says she's almost sure she's asexual in candid posts reflecting on love and identity. Keke Palmer is opening up about her sexuality. The One of Them Days actress shared a candid Valentine's Day reflection. She spoke about how she labels her sexuality now, almost a decade after saying that she doesn't limit herself with a label. She said, quote, "I like no one, and I'm almost 100% sure I'm asexual," end quote. In recent years, she's spoken about her identity and confusion. Fans praised her honesty, while her One of Them Days co-star SZA commented, quote, "You're actually way too advanced for anyone I could even think of," end quote. Well, you know, girl, if you're asexual, good for you. I always have the caveat nowadays when celebrities do an identity post that as long as this isn't for PR, if this is genuine, like, good for you, girl.
I would agree. At this point, and we've been talking about some other stories. Do who or do what you want to do.
That's right.
And it's okay if if you don't want to label yourself. You should have just stuck with that. Unfortunately, we pry into celebrities' lives way too much, and we make it our business to know what sexuality that they are, and it doesn't really matter at the end of the day because they're not paying my bills or sleeping with me.
Yeah.
So
but, unfortunately, human condition is curiosity. You want to get to know them and who they are. But good for her loving herself and being honest with herself. So.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
LGBTQ 1 Minute News. Let's queer up entertainment. Pedro Pascal and Rafael O'Lara spark dating rumors. New York City sightings of Pedro Pascal and creative director Rafael O'Lara are igniting dating speculation. TMZ reported, quote, "Pedro Pascal and Rafael O'Lara were snapped in New York City over the weekend, and we have pics of them linking arms on their way to grab a Sunday lunch," end quote. Just Jared added that the pair were seen together in Manhattan's Lower East Side and later leaving the same car, also linking arms. The outing happened over Valentine's Day weekend. Pascal has never publicly addressed his sexuality or any relationship. The actor, however, remains widely known as a longtime LGBTQ plus ally while keeping his personal life notably private. But fans are definitely taking notes. Good for you guys. I mean, it could be just two bros having fun. I mean, there's a lot of cultures, especially overseas, that men link arms and hold hands and they're not gay. So, look, let them have fun. Again,
Absolutely.
Like I just said, it's their business. What is it?
Well, I was like, on the one hand, like, more out actors is a wonderful thing.
Sure.
That being said, on this, maybe it's friends, maybe it's lovers. I'm sure it's just a coincidence that when they were locking into each other in that picture, they were looking right into the paparazzi's eyes, so they knew they were being photographed. I was just a coincidence. They made sure to pose the right pose for them.
And again, if you have been in the public eye or a political or actor or musician or not, there's a bit of mystery that you have to keep about yourself usually anyway, because that way people keep asking about you.
That's right.
So could this be a publicity stunt?
I will say this, if Pedro really wants to claim he's gay, I better see more than just some light touching. I want to see some heavy petting and some making out. I want to see some Frenching, guys, to prove that you two are doing more than just like a something for the cameras,
And you heard it first here.
LGBTQ 1 Minute News. Let's queer up the USA View. Now removed LA billboard revives James Charles sexual misconduct allegations. A billboard referencing past allegations against James Charles briefly appeared over Los Angeles over the weekend before being removed on Monday. The display featured Charles' photo alongside a BBC headline about 2021 accusations involving inappropriate messages to minors. Ethan Klein confirmed funding the billboard via TED Entertainment Inc. In an Instagram video, Klein said, quote, "Yes, it's true. I paid about $10,000 to put up a full-sized billboard," end quote, and described it as an effort to remind the public of Charles's past conduct. In 2021, Charles admitted his behavior was reckless. Neither Charles nor his team has commented on the billboard. Well, if you have the money,
petty.
Yeah, it's a little petty.
Petty.
If you have the money, certainly it's a heck of a way to get the message out there. And
but
what do you guys think?
But what messages are you getting out there? I mean, honestly, if James did something illegal, then it should go through the court system.
You're right.
regardless if the court system is flawed or not, it should go through the court system. And the people that were harmed by this should be taking action. And yes, they should be protected. But what did this billboard really do? Well, people are going to drive by it. Most people don't even know who he is anymore. Again, he's not somebody who's in the public eye that much anymore or talked about anymore. So what did it really do? If you want to spend $10,000 on helping, give it to our mental health fund, and I will help the people who were bullied by him. The mental health help.
James is very icky and inappropriate to talk to minors in that way, but also what little I know of Ethan Klein is just seeing him being a jerk with Hassan Piker. So I kind of feel like Ethan and James kind of deserve each other.
These are today's headlines from Queer News Tonight. Our anchors represent the best of our LGBTQ family.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Don't forget to join the conversation on your favorite streaming platform. Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ digital TV show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines.
We need your support. If our community is to grow and then thrive, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world. This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I am your anchor, Rex Rogash, and I thank you for joining us on behalf of my fellow LGBTQ anchors here at Queer News Tonight, Larry Farver and Alex Morash. We'll see you daily at 8 p.m. To our LGBTQ plus world, we wish you a good night.
Night.